and with carrying first passengers. What was then Mowasalat's also motivation in conducting the trials, or the specific different locations, for example?
So Mowasalat was, of course, with the vision of the ministry. Mowasalat is what we're planning to do is that we have a live process for this autonomous bus in different locations. And we're aiming to market, our strategy was to aim to market this autonomous bus and just waiting for a client to request it. So far, what we're comfortable to provide this bus is for example, a semi-confined area, which does not have a public impact. Just for us to have a database on how safety this autonomous bus is. So once we have this safety features and this safety data that we can share with the government and any other sectors that will give us the approvals for us to release it to the public, then we can have a ground on this.
And I was also just remembering from this conversation we just had a couple of days ago that you were just also coming back from traveling abroad, and there also you witnessed how an operation of AVs could look like. Maybe you could also shed some light there to the audience.
Yes.
What could it look like?
Yes, so I was in China recently. 2 days ago, I arrived back to Doha. They have reached to the autonomous level of that they would have a bus station, that the driver would just leave the bus and the bus would automatically go to the charging station if it requires charging, and then automatically goes to the parking and park for overnight. And also I have witnessed that there's in Beijing an area which they are, the government is aiming to have it without any fuel or diesel operation vehicles. And over there where I have found that autonomous taxis that you request by the app, and also the autonomous bus which they are operating. And they have been operating for a couple of years now with 0 incidents in China currently. Yes.
Coming to also the topic exactly where you mentioned also with, for example, ordering the vehicles through the app, maybe coming that towards you, Veronica. As residents and visitors to Qatar cannot only be open to utilize AVs, the right infrastructure also needs to be in place for them to be used. What systems does the Ministry of Transport already have in place that AVs could be integrated into?
So let me take this chance to introduce SILA, which is integrating the public transport in the country. We are actually displaying SILA also in our Ministry of Transport booth at the back there. So briefly, SILA is about connecting public transport in the country, so that includes our Doha Metro, Lusail tram, Mowasalat buses, and also Qatar taxis. So why do we want to do that is to mainly to provide a seamless experience for our riders, make it much easier for them to connect between the different modes of transport so that it becomes an integrated journey. So as part of SILA program, we have a couple of products that we have launched and also enhancing and also upcoming as well. So one of it is the SILA app and website, which is already live, which is providing journey planning functionality for people to go from A and B, suggesting public transport options for them to choose from. They can choose one mode if should they want to. Maybe they just want to take Doha Metro, they can do so. Or if they want to connect between different modes, between say Doha Metro, then connecting onto Mowasalat buses, they could also see that option and the time and also walking distance as well. So that's one of the products that we have launched, but we are continuously enhancing the app, both in terms of information, experience, and also functionalities. The next product that we are very excited to launch upcoming is the integrated ticketing, which is one ticket let's say, one Silla card for people to go on different transport modes and to be able to tap on the different modes without needing to have more than one ticket like currently. As part of that, we also are launching e-tickets. So those e-tickets can be accessed on the Silla app. Again, you don't need a card anymore. You can easily purchase a ticket on the app, on the go, even before you reach the station. And there's also other options who might just want to use their credit card, for example, so which is already practiced around the world. So we are in close collaboration with all our stakeholders, such as Mowasalat, Qatar, also with Qatar Central Bank, Qatar National Bank, in order to finalize this project so that we be able to launch it to the public. Also, in terms of the Silla, is also including the wayfinding, which Samuel already touched on his presentation. It's all about guiding people to how to get to use public transport. We want to make it easier. We want to tell everyone that it's possible to get to A and B on public transport, and it can be seamless, it can be smooth experience. Coming back to AV, so we know AV is going to come to us in the very near future. So what Silla is looking at is also how do we integrate AV into us? Of course, we are looking at functionality. So for example, be it maybe driverless taxi in the future or driverless shuttle that comes to take you to the station as first mile and last mile transport services, because the driver is no longer there. For someone who has booked the services on the app, we need to make sure that they are able to use the smartphone for them to recognize that is the car that they booked for, or for the car to recognize that is the right rider that they're picking up. So elements like that we're looking into integrating, which is very important, and smartphone is becoming part of our life already. A lot of us can't live without it. So this is something that we really need to consider within our app.
Yeah, that sounds already very interesting, also this digitalization aspect, let's say. And there, Eman, maybe coming there also to you with the MCIT, as the MCIT is also supporting the digitalization of the transport sector in Qatar, alongside Silla. What transport-related initiatives are you currently driving in your role as a director of the Digital Innovation Department?
So thank you very much for this opportunity to be actually talking about the digital roadmap that has been created in the country. And I really appreciate what Mowasalat, Ministry of Transport is actually organizing to bring all these intelligent minds together to discuss these frontier topics that needs to be addressed. And there's a lot of challenges that not are happening in Qatar, but on a global scale. In terms of what we are doing in the Smart Country program, we have looked at several priority sectors in the country. And one of the sectors that had a lot of initiatives set to it was the transport sector, because of one of the biggest things that we are fortunate for is the maturity of the sector in Qatar, and how I guess you all heard how much investment is taking place to actually build a robust infrastructure. So what comes when what we are doing is the amount of data that's being generated for us to support the driving of these solutions. So what we have worked with them is one of the largest projects, which is the real-time crowd management and transport integrated solution that is actually it's complementing what Veronica has mentioned of the Silla integrated app, but it's also looking at the perspective of the crowds, of how they are actually around Qatar and what is their interest. So there is a lot of insightful data and how the decision making can be supported by data that is really supporting how the operations teams are working. So this solution was validated and used throughout the World Cup. So we've seen how people are leaving the stadiums, going to the public transport, and how the plans were being readjusted because of the quality of the data being generated. And again, this was used during the Asian Cup in the command center, where more than 60 commanders were actually benefiting from that. And now this will be fully operated and handled by the Ministry of Transport going forward with our support. But also we have created another platform for electric vehicle charging platform. And this is from an end user kind of experience. I guess a lot of the electric car vehicle owners would like to know what are the closest charging stations available, what type of charging that it's available, does it match their car or not? And this is one of the platforms that we worked with Kahrama, Tershid to actually create. But also for them, it has a strong feature because they can actually collaborate with all the different vendors and operators, because we don't have only one charging station by a single vendor. There are many vendors that are providing many different types of charging stations. But what an operational value that Kahrama is getting is that they can look at all the different charging stations across Qatar, and it's a growing network, rapidly growing, that they can see which one is functioning, which one needs maintenance, and also this is live information. So let's say one is being maintained, instantly as a user of an EV car owner, I will know that this is no longer live. I will go to the next available one. So I guess there is a lot of features that is benefiting both the operator and also the end user when adopting the right technology in place. And I am a big fan of how testing of the different technologies taking place, how we are putting the plans forward, the strategies, but we're also learning from the pilots that are putting place to make sure that our plans are being correct. And this is an example that we're seeing with Mowasalat continuously. And I guess people, what they need to realize, okay, so we have a lot of cars that are human, that are driven by humans, like, and there is an error margin that is high. But once a mistake happens, it's the learning opportunities only for that driver. But when a mistake happens on an autonomous vehicle, it's an actual upgrade. All the car learns at once. And this is one of the things that increases their safety across. And I guess this is why certain countries are seeing a higher value of adopting autonomous vehicles across, because the learning and the knowledge sharing can be applied at once in a single upgrade. When there is a human element, there is the challenge of knowledge sharing that takes more time, and you are not sure if they actually grasp it or not. So I guess this is one of the things that we always consider when we are learning and making these trials throughout.
Yeah, very interesting. That, you're absolutely right. When having this data from large fleets operating and all the learnings from one instance are then spread into the full fleet, then you have already very, very strong learning opportunities. I've also touched upon the electric charging infrastructure, and Samir, also you mentioned it previously in your presentation. Maybe you can also a bit elaborate, because many times also the new autonomous vehicles are also electrified and have are battery electric. What is MOT's goals for the EVs for the future? What is the MOT's goal for electric vehicles in the future?
All right. So as I said, the Ministry of Transport has set 3 strategies to assist the EV spreading out industry in the state of Qatar. So first of all, we built on the current strategy that was, I guess, formulated back in, so the policy that was formulated back in 2018 by Ministry of Transport, Kahrama, and all of these stakeholders. And we took the components of this policy, and we are actioning them as we speak. So having a policy or having a strategy without actioning these items would take you nowhere. So we're trying to action these components, these pillars, these chevrons, each at a time. So we're looking at incentivizing, from an EV perspective, you're saying. So we're looking at incentivizing the value of the vehicle by, for example, we're exempting, or we're working with the stakeholders to exempt the custom duties We're working with the central bank as well through a committee with the Ministry of Environment to have less or zero, if I may say, interest rates on purchasing electric vehicles through subsidized loans. We're looking at exempting electric vehicles from the registration renewals, the first and, of course, the renewals. We're looking at exempting, or already exempted electric vehicles from charging premiums and costs. We're also looking at exempting them from parking charges, whether through TESPO program, the smart parking, or through normal programs. And of course, we're giving them priorities in parking in malls and in public areas. And this is part of the incentivization to the EV. And of course, Kahrama, our fellows in Kahrama, and our colleagues in the MCIC are looking at, as Eman rightly said, into the a complete lay of the land infrastructure, the charging infrastructure. So I guess we are in the right track and the right path, and we're looking at implementing all of these in the years to come.
Yeah, and maybe they're also coming to you, Ahmad, because the Mowasalat is heavily electrifying its fleet. Can you tell us more about these electrification initiative and your experience at Mowasalat with the operation of electric vehicles, so specifically your buses?
So Mowasalat, Karwa have initially started with electrical vehicles, electrical buses, first implemented with the buses that have been supporting the World Cup 2022, around 800 electrical buses, and they have been operating since then, and thankfully with zero issues of these electrical buses. Then in our public transport, it's above 900 electrical buses currently are operating in our public transport, with also the continuous support from Ministry of defining the routes that we are serving as public transport. Currently, also we're having over 30 electrical vehicles supporting our limo services. Also in our taxi, Karwa taxis, all our vehicles currently are hybrid. And also future-wise, we're planning to replace them with electrical vehicles. Above that, since our experience in the electrical buses, we had some issues with these buses that operating in our region due to the heat and due to the humidity that we are facing every summer. However, our engineers and the OEM of the buses have attended several meetings in modifying these buses to meet our requirements. And they have achieved of modifying these buses to meet our environment with zero incidents. And currently that's what we're operating. And we're having a continuous meeting with the Ministry of Transport to increase our public transport with the electrical vehicles. And as the plan was, as Mr. Samer mentioned, is depending on also our routes, is building the infrastructure to support the areas that we are planning to have the buses operate. So this is currently what we're doing. Yes.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you're specifically also mentioning the, let's say, modifications or make the buses, the electric buses also, let's say, to fit the requirements to the region and especially also the heat. Do you have maybe also some insights on the maintenance, repair, and therefore the operational costs in general, so operating a fleet of electric buses compared to conventional powertrain?
So yes, operating the electrical buses, operating the diesel buses, of course, there will be a lower impact on maintenance. As you may be well aware, that the electrical buses have a longer maintenance grounding time, shorter maintenance grounding time, however, a longer intervals for maintenance for the electrical buses, which has a very big impact on the maintenance that is required on these electrical buses. Over and above, we're also in communication with universities, also to seek the maintenance required on this. We're having internship from universities. We're also providing them some of our batteries and some of our requirements that to further process or any requirements that will have interests in Mowasalat in these buses operation. So we're also in discussions with universities to give them some of our components to modify it to meet our requirements. And also we're having internships coming to our facilities and maintaining our buses and learning a bit more of the electrical buses.
Since you mentioned that the operation of the buses, is it also then related to the operation itself, because they need to be recharged compared to refueled? I think always also in, let's say, the public, there's always the conception that it takes a longer time. So at Mowasalat, when operating such a huge fleet of buses, what was the impact also regarding your operations in general, also compared to previously conventional powered ICE buses?
So the mentality of changing from diesel buses to electrical buses had a very big impact. We had lots of trainings that have been provided to our drivers and our engineers. And also the training is a continuous training, not like it's a one-time training that we used to do before. It's a continuous training with any upgrades that we have faced and all the any electrification that have been in place with these buses. Additionally, we have, as mentioned by Mr. Samer, 4 large depots that are operating the electrical buses and supporting our electrical fleet.
Yeah, very, very interesting to listen to, and I think also the bus depot can be, in general, be visited also tomorrow, I guess. So maybe also interesting to see to some of our guests, right?
Yes, tomorrow it's planned by the Ministry of Transport a visit to Lusail Depot. It's one of our largest electrical depots. In fact, it won the Guinness World Record for electrical charging.
Yeah, Simon, now coming also back to you. We have now talked about AVs and also the EVs in both vehicle, or the technologies, as you have also already mentioned in your presentation before. They need to be inspected, licensed, and homologated here in Qatar. What is the MOT's plan to ensure that safe autonomous and electric vehicles are being rolled out here to the public?
Thank you, Dennis. This is a very important question. It's a very important aspect of the AV. As I said, we need to trust the technology. We need to trust the whole realm of technology. So we're launching 2 tenders related to this. One is the international study to look at establishing a center of homologation, testing, and certification of AV and AV. And in the same time, the actual implementation of the center with the private sector. As part of the Ministry of Transport PSP, which is the private sector participation strategy. So we're trying to look further from look away from a government regulatory, maybe autonomous boarding into engaging the private sector. See, we're looking at certifying all the components of the AV, the complete components of the AV, each and every single component, just to make sure that each and every single component is reliable, safe, and fits the purpose. Then we're looking at a whole vehicle inspection, complete vehicle inspection, and only by then we will issue a certificate for the vehicle to be run of course, in our streets in the state of Qatar. So we need to make sure that whether it's an EV or AV, it's completely homologated, completely safe, completely reliable, before we take a decision as a government to allow such usage in Qatar.
And I guess also it's very, very good to hear that safety first approach is being taken, let's say. Since there's also, in general, two different schools of thought, whether you would follow a proof in use argument and you deploy vehicles basically just to the public, whereas, let's say, following rather certifying or checking basically whether a specific vehicle was developed according to several, for example, ISO standards, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think there are already some measures then being taken with such specific, or with this process you have outlined, and also such homologation centers. Yeah, maybe there then also coming back to Veronica in general, to research studies that they are suggesting that there are many benefits in general for the public with autonomous vehicles and obviously also electric vehicles. What are, regarding the autonomous vehicles, the benefits, the most promising benefits in your personal opinion?
Well, there are a lot of benefits, and that's why we're in this forum to talk about how to implement and bring it to life. So for me, one of the biggest benefit I would see is about improving accessibility to the whole community. So we are trying to implement public transport for accessible to all. But there are segments of the society, for example, say students, people with disability, or the elderly. They are still very highly dependent on others to, for example, drive them around to school, to appointments, etc. So with a driverless public transport service, they could really benefit from those being more independent, being more able to travel by themselves to get to places and be part of the society again. They don't feel like they are being left out because they're always depending on someone else. I think this is one of the biggest benefit. And in terms of the industry, and building on the point that Ahmad has mentioned about training giving to the staff for maintenance and operation, this is going to build on the sector within Qatar, that we are moving on to more high-tech sectors. The workforce is going to be enhanced. Also, we are going to put Qatar on the map in terms of AV as well. That really looks into the economic diversification, workforce, improve workforce skills as well. Also, we already touched on about safety and about traffic flow. So a lot of the accidents that happen at the moment, whether here or around the world, research suggests that a lot of the cause is because of human error. So by removing this human as the driver, we're eliminating one big factor that is causing the accidents and also the fatal or serious injured categories of incidents. So that in turn, there's many debates about this point, obviously, but that in turn would make it more safe in terms of traffic, and for AV being able to communicate between different AV vehicles, communicate with the traffic signals. In turn, it makes traffic flow smoother. And also that brings to the next point about environmental impact, because they move smoother, we're not stuck in the traffic jam, that we will reduce the greenhouse gases emissions. We are working towards improving the environment then. So I would say those few points are the key points that I think are the main benefits for AV. And ultimately, this overall, we can say that we are working and to achieving and aligning with the Qatar National Vision 2030 in terms of the 4 pillars, the human development, the economic development, the social development, and the environmental development as well.
Yeah, very interesting that the benefits are so broadly, basically. Maybe there also, Eman, you also touched upon the TASMU program. Which stakeholders do you there see also benefiting the most from TASMU's Smart Qatar's initiatives in the transport sector?
So when we talk about how we are looking at our stakeholders and the different sectors we're working with, it's actually, let's say, a cross-sector impact. So the adoption of EV is actually saving each car being charged through an electrical vehicle is saving the environment 6 tons of CO2 emissions compared to a conventional vehicle. So this has a huge impact on the initiatives that we're working with the Ministry of Environment, who are looking at ways of decreasing CO2 emissions in the country and the carbon offsetting and so on. And also healthcare impacts on the citizens. Healthcare is also one of the priority sectors we're working with in terms of increasing the quality of life for the citizens and residents of Qatar. And all these kind of impacts and the different projects being adopted across the different sectors has this trickling impact across many sectors that is achieving a better quality of life across. And we're just ensuring that we are having the right data infrastructure that's being implemented across for us to being able to monitor, create the right solutions that drives these this high impact platforms, and we're seeing a lot of things. So we've seen how a digital twin is enabled us to enhance the operations during the World Cup, from the crowd management, crowd movement, into utilizing the public transport. But also now we're seeing different applications of how it can impact how we can actually create higher, let's say, zones that has air quality in terms for the people in Qatar. So how are the cars being moved in certain areas? A higher number of public transport adopted means better quality of air in certain areas. So we've seen these data actually coming across and so on. And this is one of the things that, let's say, Ministry of Environment actually caught their attention for them to actually create Qatar's map for environmental tracking through certain initiatives that were led by the transport. So I guess this thing that we are seeing and the availability of data empowers a lot of the sectors. And this is one of the main things that we're working towards through the digital agenda that's being led by the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. It is creating the National Data Program. This will be a huge enabler for the decision making across the different sectors, for us to have the standards, the right regulations, the right ways of actually thinking of how we can really have an open data and the right platforms to enable us to have this cross kind of sharing between the sectors.
So I really must say, listening to all of you and the initiatives Qatar has already in place or is also launching soon, sounds really amazing, and I think very much forward-looking already, how our future here will look like. And time is really now passing by so quickly, so we are already at towards the end to our panel. Maybe very briefly, so how do you envision to travel or commute to work in, let's say, 5 to 10 years from now? Very quickly, starting with you, Eman. What do you think?
So I am a huge fan of AV, autonomous vehicles, and knowing how the infrastructure of Qatar, the roads and everything, I would love to have my car waiting for me and takes me, knowing my schedule through my agenda, and just drives me there and being prepared. Because I think a lot of the hassle now is actually putting the map locations and going to certain places. Takes from your time and attention. But I guess if we have more of our time back through an autonomous vehicle that understands how I commute, would be a perfect scenario for me.
Sam, what do you think? Also looking forward to get more time back from your life?
Well, from an EV perspective, take the public transport, we're going to be 100%, inshallah, by 2030. We are a very aggressive percentage now. We are 73%. So I'm positive that we will reach 100% by 2029, 2030. And in the same time, from a private perspective, we're looking at 20% by 2030 and around 10% on a commercial vehicle. Yesterday, His Excellency Minister of Transport has witnessed an EV truck, which is the right way to go going forward. From an EV perspective, as I said, we're implementing the strategy you've seen, and I would like to wait for the number that we will announce as a Ministry of Transport. We will announce the EV number by 2035, 2040, and 2045. Of course, I concur with Eman. It's easier to have it, but then again, from a driving experience, a little bit longer. It's an apple to apple whether you want to lose the driving experience to. But I guess yes, we will see a lot more AV cars, especially on Cairo's front, when we're supporting. See, the first thing you're going to say, I'm announcing this, you're going to say the AV taxi. And they said Qatar is going to be very, very soon after we finalize the strategy. So this is something that is coming within the couple of years down the road.
Ahmad, what do you think? How will you commute?
Honestly, within 10 years, not within only 10 years, but currently right now, for any of our requirements for transportation or any vehicles that we're currently using right now, there's an electrical version of this vehicle. So basically from trucks to transportation to buses to vehicles to motorcycles. So anything of you think of transportation there's an EV version of that vehicle. So I think the first objective is to electrify all the public and major transportations in Doha. As Mr. Samer mentioned, we have to have a ground with the autonomous vehicles. We have to have some data. We have to start with semi-confined areas to have that reliable data, regardless other countries. And from there onwards, I think, yes, we can reach to what Eman is requesting, basically. Yes.
Veronica, very quickly, what do you think? Autonomous, yes or no?
Yes, I will use autonomous vehicles. Similar to Eman, I want to get some time back with my life. And also with the autonomous vehicle, you can also work within it. You can have private conversation, you can work meetings in it because there's no drivers around, so you can do that. And because the machine is driving, you can do your own thing. You can use that time to be more productive as well.
Yeah, really very interesting to listen to all of you. And coming to the end of our panel discussion, actually we are already way beyond our time. Let me just maybe for our guests quickly summarize in 3 key takeaways I took here from our discussion. So first, fostering public acceptance and public trust is key, especially for all of these new technologies, so specifically for RVs. Secondly, this is also being supported by a strong strategy and conducting trials, what Mowasalat or Qatar is also already conducting in the range of EVs. And thirdly, given the involvement of these different entities, across stakeholder collaboration is really important, and I think that is also what we were able to hear today from you, that this is something Qatar is already doing. Yeah, and having said that, was really a pleasure to moderate this panel and have you here with us today, and I want to thank you and our guests, of course, also to listen to you.